some people coming on the stage with me. Some of them you might recognize, some of them you'll get to know very well over the next 90 minutes that we have together. So when Melissa and Ellie and Stephanie and I were talking about the dates, it just so happens that we are almost exactly to the day, to the 20th anniversary of the first performance, the first public performance ever of the New Theater Workshop, 20 years ago. It's one of those crazy coincidences. Anyway, I'm gonna have these folks go down the line, if you could go sort of snake it back this way. And they're going to introduce themselves, and then I got a couple other little things I'm going to share, and then we're going to start talking more. So I'm Anthony Rapp, but yeah.
Is this on? Hi, I'm Fredi Walker-Browne. I'm
Hi, I'm Rodney Hicks. Paul and others.
Marlies Yearby, choreographer.
Daphne Rubin-Vega, Mimi.
Aiko Nakasone, Alexi Darling, and others.
Wilson, Jermaine, Heredia, and I played
I'm Cynthia O'Neal, and you don't know why I'm here, but you will before this is over.
It's very true.
Support group.
And I'm Julie Larson, Jonathan Larson's sister.
I'm Nicola, the artistic director of New York Theater Workshop.
I'm Telsey, and I'm the casting director.
So are we prepared to go to the video that a certain other cast member sent us? Are we prepared? Because unfortunately, people are away and doing other things, including my co-star on If Then, Idina Menzel. You might have heard her, but she's currently doing If Then, and so she did this.
It's Idina here. I just want to say hi, and I'm sorry that I'm not there. I regret it so much. I just want to say I miss you, to all of my cast that's there, and to all the fans. It's such a special occasion. I want to say thanks to Anthony for putting all this together, and I want to say happy 20th anniversary. 20 years ago, this changed the course of our lives, and I want to pay tribute to Jonathan, and to just, remind everybody, the theme of the show and how you got to kind of like stay in the moment and live for today, and that's what you're all doing, and I just wish I could be there in person. Take care, love you, bye.
And Idina's last show on If Then is on Sunday, and so there's some replacements coming in, and that's the reason that our director Michael Greif couldn't be here, because he's out in Costa Mesa helping put the new people in the show. But he very graciously, I asked him if he would write a little message that I could share with you all, and so I'm going to do that, and that's going to kick this off into the official gear that we are. So this is from Michael Greif. Hello, BroadwayCon. I wish I could be there with all of you and my friends and colleagues to celebrate Jonathan's achievement on the 20th anniversary of Brent's opening of the New York Theater Workshop and at the Needlander on Broadway. Is it snowing yet? I remember a lot of snow while we were rehearsing in 1996. And has anyone mentioned that lyric in Christmas Bells? Over the past 2 decades, I've been fortunate to continue to direct and help develop many new musicals. The influence that Jonathan has had on so many composers, writers, my collaborators is extraordinary. When Tom Kitt, Brian Yorkey, Benj Pasek, and Justin Paul tell me about their life-changing encounters with Rent, or when Lin-Manuel Miranda tells the world about it, or when in the middle of an episode of Girls I hear that Lena Dunham was affected too, I'm floored and proud. As we celebrate Jonathan's achievement, let's also imagine the many great musicals he certainly would have written, and be comforted by the many great musicals he has already and will continue to inspire. I feel very lucky, as I know my friends on this panel do, to have known, worked, and to have been inspired by him. Love, Michael Greif. So I feel like that pretty perfectly says so many things that I would imagine. I think he speaks for many of us. But part of what I'm particularly excited about this panel is that, you know, those of us who are in the show, we've been the public face of it for so long. But there are all these other people, and many of them also couldn't be here, but who had such, I mean, it would not have happened if it weren't for them. You know, and they observed it from the background, but I'm so glad that they're going to get to share some of that experience with you all, and that they're going to feel, they're already feeling some of this directed at them. So I wanted to actually, I believe of this group, obviously Julie, you would be the first person here who would have encountered the material in the first place. And I'm curious, because I've never really known what Jonathan told you about it and when, and how you were made known that he was working on this particular piece.
It's hard to remember exactly because I feel like it's always been a part of our lives at this point. But John would share whatever he was working on with us. And part of it was, I lived in California and he was in New York. So a lot of times he'd work late into the night on some songs or music or whatever it was he was working on. And it was too late to share it with his friends on the East Coast, so he would call me. And I'd pick up the phone and he'd just say, listen. And he would play whatever it was he was working on.
This is the days before the internet, people.
Yes,
so
yes, it was, and we had little CDs that were, you know, the lullabies for my sons growing up, literally. That's what, you know, as he worked on the show. I don't remember a specific point. I know early on he worked with Billy Aronson initially, was asked to collaborate on that, and then they happily parted ways, and John had a different vision and felt the show belonged downtown and was relevant to everything that was going on in the world, downtown in the East Village, and with the AIDS crisis that wasn't being dealt with, and he felt very passionate. He was losing friends right and left, and that's kind of the shift. And I remember then he worked on it for a number of years, and I would like to just publicly say to Jim, Nicola, and everybody on this panel, and everyone who's ever worked on the show, and all of the fans, thank you so much. It's amazing to us that the show has resonated with all of you, and that you believed in Jonathan and helped develop it with him, and that it's changed a lot of lives, and it continues to be relevant. And so thank you. Thank you.
So that brings me to Jim. I think you're the next person in terms of you have to
I think it might be Cy.
Cy? Well, I guess, okay. There's a bridge situation that I think it would be a good thing. Yeah, actually. So Cy O'Neal, she said we're going to find out who she is. So Cy O'Neal is not only a great friend of mine, but she runs an organization called Friends Indeed, which I've been very honored to be I'm on the board, and Jonathan went to Friends Indeed with friends of his who were HIV positive, and he was so moved by what he encountered there that he decided that he wanted to put, that was the source of life support in the piece, was directly inspired by Friends Indeed. So you could take the rest of the story from here then, I think. It would be good, yeah, of how you met him and how we met you and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, Jonathan started coming to the groups, and he was, I mean, I really remembered him. I'm very clear about Jonathan because he was so focused. He was really there, really listening to everything everybody said. And he never spoke in the group, but I just noticed him because the energy coming off of him was so strong. And then one day he sent me a tape, and he told me, he said, I'm writing this show about AIDS and everything. There's a couple songs, I'd love you to hear some of it. And he sent me a tape. And I've done a lot of dumb things, but this is really a good one. I never bothered to listen. I really didn't. I mean, you know, I was sure it was, a lovely little show and, you know, terrific people. I'm sure they're working very hard, and I, you know, support that. And then one day, just about exactly 20 years ago, I was in my office at Friends Indeed, and Jonathan called me, and he said, we're rehearsing at New York Theater Workshop, and I would just love it if you would come over this afternoon and talk with my cast. Now, it was freezing cold, sleet, ice, water at the curbs up to your knees, and I thought, oh, God, I don't want to do this. But something, I put it off a little. I said, gee, well, you know, I'm really busy, but let me see if I can, you know. And my husband, who was an actor, had died just a few months before. And I remember I sort of was pacing around thinking, how do I get out of this? I don't want to do this. And I really felt like I heard Patrick. I felt like he said to me, wait a minute. These are young actors and people excited about the theater, and and it's about AIDS, and there's only one answer, and the answer is yes. So I thought, oh yeah, that's true. That's the answer. So I made my way over to the New York Theater Workshop, and I went into the rehearsal, and Jonathan came bounding across the room. And I don't know how long I was there. You know, an hour or maybe even an hour and a half. And when I got back to the office, everybody said to me, well, how was it? And I said, oh, thank God I went. Now, I didn't hear anybody sing a song. I didn't hear a note of music, but I got it. I got that there was something going on in that room that was extraordinary. And I was so glad I'd been asked to come, and now I couldn't wait to see the show. And I think, you know, I got a sweet note from Jonathan saying, I can't wait for you to see it. Thank you so much for coming and all of that. And then I don't think it was the next day. I think it was the day after. Do you remember, Anthony?
It was
2
not
days?
long later, not long after, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it was 2 days after. I went into Friends Indeed in the morning, and in my mailbox there was a note from Anthony, which just said, I wanted you to know that Jonathan died last night. And that wasn't possible. I mean, that was not possible. Obviously, I had just seen him. Nobody could have been more full of life than he was, bounding across the room to me. But I thought, well, so I called the workshop, you know, the theater. And indeed, it was just not possible. So, I mean, I was just stunned. And then there was the memorial, just very quickly, at the Minetta Lane Theater. And that was, and people spoke. Julie spoke beautifully, I remember so well. And, you know, friends and family spoke. And boy, was it clear what a loving and loved man Jonathan Larson was. I mean, that was so clear in that memorial service. And then, these guys, and the ones that aren't here too, all walked down the aisle and up onto the stage and made a line across the stage. Whoa. And sang, you know, how do you measure in love? And that was the first time I heard any of those voices. And it just totally blew me away. It was so thrilling. So then, the next thing that happened was the friend who brought Jonathan there in the first place, Matt and I went to actually see the show. And I don't know, it's amazing we lived through that. Because Jonathan didn't tell me anything. He didn't tell me that there was a support group in the show, modeled on the group that I lead. I had no idea. I mean, it was just staggering. And there were, friends indeed phrases, things we say all the time, no day but today. And then, somehow the absolute killer was that one night when Jonathan was there, a man raised his hand, a man I'd never seen before, a young man, and he said, I don't really have a problem about dying, but will I lose my dignity? And Jonathan had been in the room that night. So, when stepped out and started to sing, Will I Lose My Dignity? Well, that's as powerful and moving a moment as I'll ever have in my life. And Matt and I just sat there, tears rolling down our cheeks, hanging on to each other. Anyway, that was the beginning, and then thanks to the producers, I got to also, they asked me to go meet the cast in Boston and LA and Toronto, and I went to London with them. So, and then I saw the show a few times.
You were one of the original redheads.
What?
You were one of the original redheads.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, redhead.
Yes.
I wanted everyone I knew to see it, but I had to be with them while they saw it. So I didn't just send people, I went right with them. And I don't have a lot of sentimental memorabilia. In fact, I don't have any of my prom corsage or anything like that. But something made me save the ticket stubs. And I have a stack of red ticket stubs. It's about that big. It's probably not true now, but at one time I knew every word of that show. I kept offering to fill in for people. And strangely, none of you guys ever took me up on it. Anyway, so I just had this, it was the ultimate bonding experience. I just felt so close to everybody. They became, my family. I was so honored to be part of their family. And it's just absolutely one of the great gifts in my life. And of course I thank Jonathan for that. So that's why I'm here.
So now if I can ask you, Mr. Nicola, I don't know if it's an apocryphal story or if it's a true story of Jonathan literally riding his bike past the New York Theater Workshop when it was under construction. That is what happened, and he walked in, right? Yep. So do you want to?
Well, New York Theater Workshop this is 92, and we had been working in a theater in the West Village, in a rental theater, and our generous board finally got us our own home, and we were moving to this place in the East Village, and we were talking amongst ourselves about how it might be good to actually look for some work by some writers about the new neighborhood we were going to inhabit, so that we would not just feel like invaders, that we might be having a conversation with our new neighbors. And luckily enough, Jonathan rode by on his bike and saw the doors open of this theater that had been shut down for a while, and we were in the middle of a renovation. And it turned out that our production manager at the time and Jonathan were friends, and he didn't know that George was there. So Jonathan said, this would be a perfect theater for my new show. And George said, well, bring it over and drop it off for Jim. So he did, and we listened to it. It was a script and a cassette tape.
Do you know what those are?
Yeah. And the cassette tape, which I still have, was Jonathan on his electric piano singing the songs, and there were some good ones and some not good ones in that early version, but the good ones were remarkably good, and it was very clear from that first encounter that this was an unusual talent. And for a small theater like us, this was going to be a big challenge to take on a musical. We'd never done that before. So I liked the idea of an organization like ours actually growing because the artists that we wanted to support demanded that we grow, not just for the sake of getting bigger. The last thing I'll say is that something that looms large over the years about that first encounter with the script that appealed to me personally, someone who'd grown up in the suburbs of Hartford, wondering if there was a life for me because I didn't fit in, and I had found music theater and Broadway and all of that, and I knew, okay, I'm getting out of here and going to New York. The first stage direction in that version said there's a rock band on stage, and in the pit there is a full Broadway orchestra. And what intrigued me about that was this was a young artist who was not like some wonderful young artists in whatever their discipline, set out to say, I'm going to invent my own forms. I'm going to make something that no one has ever seen. What was interesting to me about Jonathan in those two conflicting or potentially conflicting impulses was a sense of, I am a new generation of a legacy of a body of work, and my task is to be on the shoulders of the people that preceded me and make this new form live in the present moment for a new generation. And that was very appealing to me, and I think a very healthy and wholesome human impulse.
I have to skip you for a second, Bernie, because for the annals of the history, there's a certain lady down there, Miss Daphne Rubin-Vega. This was in '92. You said you got that, and you guys, if I'm not mistaken, did a staged reading at some point in that time.
Yes, we did a stage reading in '94.
But that year, the same year of the studio production.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So they had done that, and Jonathan had been developing it with, I assume, your input. Michael Greif wasn't yet a part
Not
of it,
yet,
right?
no.
So in the fall of '94.
Oh, the stage reading, the real first reading was not '94. It was probably '93.
Okay, '93, right. So somewhere in there, at that point, Michael came on board.
After that first
after
reading.
that, right?
Right.
So then Daphne and myself, in the fall of '94, auditioned for what was a 10-performance, it was called the studio production.
Yep.
And Jonathan had received a grant from the Richard Rogers Foundation. And the grant stipulated, if I'm not mistaken, that a theater do an actual workshop production of it, right?
And it stipulated that there were two segments of performance or sharing publicly, so that there could be work in between. So you'd see some performances in front of an audience, then you'd have a few days off to do some work, and then you could see it again.
Got it.
It was very smart.
So when they got that grant, they did this. Michael Greif had come on board, and they did an official casting, and it was just, that was the point at which Daphne and I both auditioned.
Correct.
And so what did you sing for audition, Daphne?
Roxanne by the Police. And you sang REM. I remember standing outside the door, staring through the doors and listening to you sing Losing My Religion.
That's cool.
I remember it.
I screwed up the audition, by the way. I jumped the verse.
So did I.
Yeah. Got called back anyway.
Yeah.
I screwed up my callback. I sang the wrong note. Got the part. I don't know, just so you can screw things up. But Bernie at this point wasn't the casting director, by the way. That's part of the reason I'm jumping time. So Daphne and I did that workshop. Gilles Chiasson, who was mentioned earlier, who sang the Will I solo, was a member of that. But the rest of the cast changed in the time between that. So we did 10 performances. It was really good, but it had some, work to be done. And did you see that, Julie? You did, but I don't think we met then, or if we did, it was so in passing, right? Yeah. So It was, it was good. I had friends who were completely freaked out by it in all the good ways, but it needed work. But what I was telling people in the meantime is that I think it's gonna, because at a certain point, Jonathan and I became friends, and he started sharing with me some of the development of it. He would call me and play songs for me on the phone.
You didn't think it was great?
I thought it was great. I'm just saying though, there was, no.
No, I'm just clarifying. Because I remember at the time, people would leave. They would get so offended because I
Yes,
remember.
they did.
Yeah, they got offended. It was amazing.
We were doing,
remarkable how.
we did audience survey things. Some of them said, why don't these kids just get a job?
Right? So in the meantime, after doing those 10 performances, there was a lot more work that Jonathan and Michael and Jim did on the text and the music and furious rewriting. And so what I don't know is when you came on board, Mr. Bernie Telsey. Bernie Telsey is the casting director, right? So.
Well, I think I could top her story of making even a bigger mistake, because I actually tried to pass on doing Rent, if you can imagine that. I tell that to young actors all the time when I'm doing lectures and whatnot. Jim and Nicola called me up, because at that time they were losing their in-house casting director, Wendy, so they were looking for a freelancer. And I had just been starting my own business doing regional theater, and I had just worked on a musical called, I was looking at the ceiling and then I saw the sky, which was a rock opera, oddly enough, written by John Adams. But it was like a 2.5-year project that toured Europe, toured the country. And I'm sure that is why, because you said that is why you called me, thinking, oh, I know the musical theater talent. And when he called me, he said he had this project. And he said he also had this play called Quills that he was doing by Doug Wright. And literally, I tried to listen to the demo tape of Rent, but I really wasn't interested in listening to the demo tape of Rent, but I read Quills, and Quills was so good. And literally, I called up Jim and said, is there any way I could just cast Quills? Could you imagine? Can you imagine what an idiot that was? That's why I never say no unless you have a better reason than that. And Jim said, nope, you got to do both.
Thank you, Jim.
So I say thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
I say thank you, Jim, 20 years in a row. But basically, so then I came, and I knew Michael. He had directed a one-act at my theater company, so I knew him. And then, of course, the minute I came down and met Jonathan and Michael and everyone, once I got over, oh my God, am I gonna have to tour the world, to do this musical again? It had nothing to do with Rent, as it was just because I had just worked on something. But the minute I met these guys, it was like a love fest, and I don't want to monopolize the time here, but what it was like working with Jonathan and Michael and Tim Weil, the musical director, and Jim, it was a really incredibly hard task, because, one thing I always like to say, this room, everyone here knows what Rent is. Back then, nobody knew what Rent was. And having nothing to do with the material, just as a job, nobody wanted that job. Because doing an off-Broadway musical for, under $300 by an unknown composer, even agents and managers didn't want their clients doing it. They'd much rather than be in the ensemble of Les Mis on Broadway and be making, over $1,000. So it was really hard. That's all I could say, and it really made all of us look under every rock to find these incredible, talented people that were already existing, of course, but they just needed that introduction, not only to me, but to the universe. And it was a joy,
And your office has continued to do it.
Yeah,
all the major productions.
Yeah,
right?
we did all the national tours, and then the revival. We constantly model anything we're casting off our days of doing the open calls for Rent. Just quickly, you would do an open call for Rent and nobody would show up because, again, it was an off-Broadway show that nobody knew. And then when it moved to Broadway and became what it became, it was like the first, wide open call before there was American Idol, and we had 4,000 people.
I was there.
Line up
I
downtown.
sat and watched some. Yeah, and there were people I saw who actually got cast.
Right, and it really became a way for new people with a new kind of voice and a different kind of sound to get work in the theater. And now there's thousands of rock operas and pop musicals, but it was pretty wild.
So Fredi, I'm very interested in hearing this, what y'all sang for your auditions, because I don't think I know all the answers to these questions.
Joy to the World, Three Dog Night.
Oh, the Three Dog Night version. Joy to the world, yes. Yeah.
And a quick little thing. I took Rent partially because of you. We went to college together. And I had booked this other thing uptown, and I had booked it. It was the same amount of time, the exact same money. And after my agents, I recall you guys wanted me for the Seasons of Love soloist and not Joanne because I was too old. And then my agents were like, no, she needs a role because she has a role uptown, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I'm like, you know what? Rent is downtown and I live in Brooklyn. I think I'd rather do that than schlep to
Yeah. So, yeah, Rodney, what did you say for your audition?
Wow. Talk about not knowing what Rent was. I sang, my first song was This Is the Moment. And I sang it in my best Bob Guccioli impersonation.
What is that?
And
Jekyll and Hyde.
This
is the moment.
And I had just come off of doing Ceiling Sky that Bernie had cast. And I don't know whether it was Bernie or Jonathan, because I had worked with Jonathan and Anthony in February of that year. And they said, do you have anything more R&B? And I said, yeah, I think I know On the Wings of Love. Do you have it? No. I was 21, so, no, I looked a lot younger. My soul was younger, but, true story. Tim got behind the piano, and he played On the Wings of Love, and I, sang it, but also I had painted on a goatee. Do you remember this? Yeah, of course you do. I painted on a goatee because the breakdown had said late 20s, 30s, and I had a red cardigan Christmas sweater on, and after On the Wings of Love, they said, Rodney, you dance, right? I said, oh, yeah. And so then I proceeded to take off the sweater. No. You know where this is going. And Tim started pounding out a beat on the piano. I started doing some hip hop and backflip and sweated. And afterwards, I believe Bernie had said, can I talk to you in the hallway?
Coming back. It's all coming back.
And you want to check your and so sure enough, just smeared off. Yeah.
Don't do this at home, kids. Don't do this at home. Yeah.
No. But I believe it was an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I found out I got the job. But, I also, don't try it at home. And I was young.
So, Aiko, what did you sing? Do you remember what you sang for your audition?
Oh, gosh. I honestly don't remember. Maybe Fernie does? I don't know. I actually was asking my husband today, do you remember what I sang? Because we were, Michael Joya is asking us to do, give some information for the playbill thing. Anyway, so, and he was trying to remember. He said, we had this discussion before you went to, on what to, deciding what to sing, because yes, it was so different from, Broadway standard.
Was it a pop song?
It was definitely, I think it was a rock ballad, but I can't remember. Anyway, but I just you know, going over the audition in my head, it was very brief, and I think I was in and out, and I left thinking, oh, okay, maybe they weren't impressed. That's what I felt. But then I got the call to, yeah, and can I just say what Bernie said about, you know, their actors, performers not wanting to take the job, or the agents not wanting their actors to take the job. I had finished a Broadway show about 4 months earlier, and I was on unemployment. And I even considered, I said to myself, I'm gonna get more money on unemployment than doing this job. And I did consider, do I take this job or do I stay on unemployment? And for some reason, there was, I'm thinking maybe it was Jonathan or somebody. There was a voice in my head. I slept on it before I had to answer, and I said, a voice in my head that night kept saying, take the job, take the job, take the job. So I took the job, and of course, it was the best thing, you know, for my career, for my life. The message, it helped me in my life at that time, and yeah, that's it, so, yeah.
We call him Willie J. Willie J. Wilson J. Heredia. Willie J. Tony winner. Willie J.
First of all, I have to say I'm completely overwhelmed by all the energy in here, and thank you. I also was one of those people that wasn't really interested initially because I didn't really see myself as a musical theater person. I didn't see myself as that at all. I had the skills. I studied acting, I studied dance, I studied dance, but I never saw myself putting that all together into one thing. The first day that I was supposed to show up for my audition, I was working a night job as a dispatcher, i.e. it means the complaint center of a company. You know, it's a fancy way of saying it.
Weird job.
Yeah. I worked these really strange hours. I worked from 12 to 9 o'clock in the morning. So my audition was, I believe it was around, I think 10 o'clock that first day. So, you know, I get out of work, I drive home, I take a shower, and I say, let me just take a little nap for a second. Yeah, you can imagine what happened. I wake up, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm in a complete panic. My agent is furious with me, and he says, you better go there tomorrow, you better apologize when you go there, and you better hope that they actually see you. And I said, oh, okay, fine. And so I'll go. So second day, I don't take a nap. I go straight to the audition, and my two songs were Great Balls of Fire and Amazing Grace. Dancing Stevie! And this is the way I was dressed. I'm pretty sure you remember that. I had overalls, complete, like, you know, just country overalls, full goatee.
Real or fake?
Good question.
Somebody else asked. Yeah.
It was real. It was real. And I thought, like, you know, well, this is it. You know, I'm gonna do my thing, and I walk out, and I thought they wouldn't consider me at all because I didn't think myself as a musical theater person at all. And so I go. They say, you know, can you hold on for a second? Can you wait in the other room? So they give me this tape and say, can you come back tomorrow, learn this material? And I go, fine, you know, I'll go home and learn it. And I'm thinking to myself again, I had a job though, and I finally had health insurance, so I thought, yeah, we know what that's about.
So my thought was like, I don't want to lose my health insurance and leave this job and then take this show that's only going to last for like about a month or so, and then where am I going to be? Then I'm going to have to find another job and then start my health insurance again. So I go to my job. I still had to work from 12 to 9, and luckily I'm the only person in the office during that time. So I throw on the tape and I start listening to the music, and then all of a sudden I got interested real fast. From the first to even the ones that weren't that good, there was something about it that spoke to me. Now, the reason that I said before that I didn't see myself as a musical theater person is because there wasn't a lot of things that I saw that reflected me on Broadway. So or as far as musical theater, I just didn't see myself in it. I heard this music, I heard this material, and I realized almost instantly that it was bigger than me. That it was something really, really big. And it's something that's never been heard before. And all of a sudden I got really nervous as well. It was like, oh, now I really want it, God. So here I am like singing these songs, and Cover You for me was a very intimidating song because I, as a singer prior, I was in a rock band, and so I didn't use a lot of levels of my voice. I just kind of either yelled or sang sweetly, but I didn't know, as singers call it, I didn't know how to mix my voice at all. So I go in there and I learn Cover You, I learn Today for You, which is basically a rap. And so I go in there and I start singing like, live in my, but I don't sing it that way. I go, live in my house. I'm just completely just botching it, all right? Completely botching the song. And Tim Weil, he had so much patience, and he saw that I had something, and he says, he's like, you know what, look, I don't want to offend you, but you know, he's like, you know, what do you think of it? Think of it in this way. Think of it, because I can hear your voice, and your voice has a little bit of Little Stevie Wonder in it. So why don't you approach it like Little Stevie Wonder, you know? So it became like, live in my house, I'll be your shelter, you know? That wasn't the final version, even. But I finally had I got the idea, and I felt like it was actually a singing lesson that I got, seriously, in singing in that fashion. And then we did a little bit of Today for You, and we did a dance. Oh, by the way, first of all, when I showed up for the first audition, I did that. I apologized to everyone. I walked in the room and I said, I'm sorry that I didn't show up yesterday. I have this job. And then Jonathan passes by me, and he goes, that's all right, I wasn't here yesterday either.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Did Marlies have you dance? Did you have to dance at all in your call?
No, they just had me kind of like, same thing with beat and...
Yeah, you did like a big improv thing.
Yeah, I did a big, I started to vogue a little, you know, I did a little, you know.
He was big on the voguing, I remember.
And let me tell you, I went home thinking like, I literally crawled into my bed, into a ball, and I thought, I'm horrible. I'm one of the worst performers, and like, why do I even bother doing this? And so I stayed there for a good week. And I called my agent at that time, and I said, like, you know, whatever happened to that sort of Red project? And she said, oh, they loved you. You got it. I go, really?
And how long was she holding on to that?
For a week. She held on to that information for about a week. I don't know why.
That's bad agent.
What's her name?
Because she was making a cent of a commission.
Yes,
That's why.
Yeah, right.
Well, you and I had the same agent at that time. It was the same, yes.
She was trying to find another job, another audition for you before she told you.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
A question for you guys. Was
no.
it 10 or 12 weeks, the original commitment, anybody, you remember?
Well, I mean, it was about 4 weeks of rehearsal, and then the first preview was January 25th, and then we were originally slated to close, I think, March 12th or
So that's
something like that,
five.
or,
That's
and then
like
we
7
extended,
to 1,
we were
yeah.
only able to extend for another couple of weeks, and then we moved to Broadway, and that all happened so fast.
Here's what I remember you're talking about health insurance. Both of the jobs that I was choosing between had the same time commitment, and both time commitments were enough to lock you into your equity health insurance for half a year. You see what I'm saying? And so that's like, it's part of what factored into you taking the job, all those kinds of things, especially it was what, $305 a week?
Yeah. I feel like it's important. I mean, I feel like part of the story is more because you guys have grown up inside a world where there was Rent. There was a world before Rent. I mean, I don't mean to sound like weird about it, but it's just true. No one had any idea of what was going to come. And I know it might seem like a no-brainer because it's such a brilliant piece of theater that was created, but really, no one knew. So of course, there's all these weird kismet things. Now, I don't know the full story of how you got encountered and engaged because you come from the modern dance world, am I correct?
I come from the modern dance theater, performance, so it's a whole different world. And I had just finished doing a show that exhausted me, because in that world you're giving everything, including your rent money, to put the work up on the stage. I had a company, Moving Spirits Dance Theater at that time, so I was making work constantly, and had just finished a piece called Feathers at the Flame, and was ready to just go to bed, crawl up underneath it, and I got a call from Linda. It was from Linda.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Linda Chapman over at New York Theater Workshop. And at the time, she told me David White recommended me.
Yeah, it was David White or Mark Russell.
Okay, because I was told David White, which was funny because David White never produced me and didn't know my work, but Mark Russell, we just have a long producing history, so I was always shocked by that.
She might have been wrong on that.
I need to go back and apologize to Mark. But anyway, so I went and met with Michael and Jonathan. And I read the script before I went and met them. And I could hear the music just from reading the script. And at the same time, though, I was just like, I'm exhausted. I was at the same point. I found that everyone that I spoke to, all the cast members, and everyone was in some form of transition in their life when they took Rent. And I really strongly believe that everybody that is a part of Rent, that initial journey, was supposed to be right there. So, because I was going to turn it down because I was tired. I was just tired. And when I sat with Jonathan and Michael, Jonathan said, I just want the movement to live on stage like it's real people. And when he said that, that clicked into my head, and I couldn't let that go, because it was great to hear that coming from what I saw as commercial in my mind, even though I know that it breaks a lot of rules for musical theater in my mind. From where I came from, the concert stage, performance art, all of that, it was commercial. I saw it as commercial. So it was great to hear that. I walked away, and one of my mentors and collaborators, Coop Moore, a great musician, I said, you know, I'm tired and I have this offer, and I just think I should sleep. And he looked at me and he said that thing that somebody just said on the stage, Bernie said it, never say no, just say yes, you know. And I walked out and I was thinking about it, and then I got a call for a tour from my company that was supposed to happen in March, and they said, we need to move the date to January. Is there any way that you can do it in January? And that meant doing a whole new piece of work, because it wasn't the same work. And I knew that the only way that I could do it is to work right now. Otherwise, I would be laying off 10 people. And in my world, that was like something I couldn't do. So I said yes. But the first time that I stepped in the room and heard these bodies and saw these bodies, they have so much information in them. I mean, you know, Anthony just has his natural quirky way that he was living in his body.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's weird you're saying that.
That
It's
was
weird.
inspiring. And Fredi was Miss Dance Diva. You know, she was always
love that I got to be a dance
moving,
teacher.
so that tango was yes.
I love that though. You have no
Yes.
idea how much I love that.
You
I
know?
trained and danced all my life, and
Yes.
being a big girl, you know, you don't get to be the
You don't
dance
get
teacher,
to.
so you
And
gave
you-
me that, and I love you for it.
You know? And Rodney, he was just what I call the people dancer. I mean, he just took a natural. It wasn't that he was trained in my eyes, you know. I'm glad I didn't get that wrong.
I wasn't.
He said you were dancing.
Preach.
in the audition. I was like, what? And he just had a natural ability to move that inspired.
Pop and lock and break dance and gymnastics.
Yeah. So, and then Daphne was just like fearless. And every time I would think, you know, should we try? She would go.
Do you remember when they didn't want me to do, like they said, we're gonna go, Equity actually, I sent anybody, Equity,
Yeah.
Equity wanted to stop me from doing stuff, and they were like, we're gonna go to the theater.
Well, we got
You
to
could do
Broadway.
whatever you want down there in those downtown theaters,
Right.
but now we're on Broadway and you
Change
can't
it.
do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, yeah, just watch me. Watch me. Remember?
Yeah.
That was so much fun. And now I look at that and I go,
Yeah.
what TF was that?
You stood up, but you were always naturally like that.
I have like
You know?
this knee and I call her Mimi. And you know, I have to say that like you're all talking about you know, making the fulcrum of decision. Should I take this and factoring in why and everything. I remember I was working on a piece. Do you remember God, the Devil in the Crack House? There was a play downtown called God, the Devil, and the Crack House, and you're not gonna believe this. I was there, Bobby Cannavale, Justina Machado, really wonderful people in there, and it was our first thing, and the character that I was playing was Mimi. Do you remember this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
And then Rent happened, and I always knew. It was like, I did the workshop, and I was like, I've never been so, like you, spoken to in this medium in my life. Before Rent, musical theater didn't talk to me either. I mean, I did have a bit of Jesus Christ Superstar in me, and
Right.
but not so much, you know. And so this was like talking to me, man, and it really gave me the freedom to be me. And I remember auditioning for the second go round of Rent and saying like, what do I have to do? I want this, what do I have to do? And Michael Greif was like, you better work on like singing a ballad, and cause I always just did pop music, and Jonathan said, oh, it's easy, cause you have a pop voice, just make me cry. Do you remember? I was like, okay. And so then I auditioned, and I remember walking down the stairs, and it was one of those moments walking down the street, and I heard my name, and Jim Nicola walked down the stars, and he said, look, I don't want you to walk out of here, because I just want you to know, because you knew that I was dying for that part. I was like, Mariah Carey's gonna be coming up here and trying to take this home. Remember? I was like, please, dear God. And he said, just chill. You're gonna be okay. Thank you, Jim.
That was
Thank
a great
you.
moment for me, too. I'll never forget that.
Changed my life.
It's all unbelievable to hear your version of it, because what I've always heard was that, was it Jonathan who said, or Michael who said, she's Mimi, no question.
Close to the bone was what it said. Without the heroin.
Can I ask you something, Daphne?
Oh, I was gonna say, Marlies, when we started out, I know Adam and Jesse were there, but do you remember we all went to a strip club?
I didn't go to a strip club.
You didn't go to a
I
strip
was very, very well behaved.
That was, well, Bernie, you definitely did not go to a strip club, but that was our research. Like, I was like, I'm gonna go to a strip club. Come on, guys, and Adam and Anthony were Adam and Jesse were totally into it. I think Adina went, yeah. And it was so fun to say, this is research, I'm gonna do that.
Dorothy, can I ask you something? Yeah. So you said that first workshop is what led you into musical theater, or made you feel like you could do that, right? Is that when you continued auditioning for musicals after that? Because
truth to tell, I didn't really audition for musicals.
You didn't? Then how did we wind up doing the show we did
the
the summer before? Remember that summer?
You are so right
that
about that.
June, and then September Rent came. I had no idea.
Fredi Walker-Browne and I did a musical before Rent called Where's Waldo?
It was a TYA.
Where's Waldo?
Yes, that very
And
summer.
talk about humbling. We had to get up at the crack of your butt and
Pack the van.
build
Pack the van, pack the
sets.
costumes, take it, put the sets up.
We got up, we
TYA,
put it
baby.
in a van, we took it out of the van.
She was
we
on
put it in
wardrobe,
the
I
thing.
think,
We
and I
put
drove.
the thing on the thing. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, seriously. But it cracks me up that you say that, because we met doing that musical right before the Rent thing happened that fall. It was just right after that. I was like, wow.
Right. I remember meeting Jesse at the first audition.
Oh, wow.
And Jesse, sitting there, and me being me, he said, it was just the two of us, and he said, do you know what this show's about? Because I don't know what this show's about.
Yeah, where's Jesse's video? How come you didn't get Jesse to do it?
Tried. He's very busy with
Call his
class.
ass right now.
Yeah, if we're talking about Jesse,
Let's see.
Should I FaceTime him? That's what the technology
I can say
is
this
for,
about
people.
Jesse because we've talked about it many times. If you look at all of our old Rent schedules, there's like 8 no-shows next to Jesse Martin's name.
Why?
No show, and then he would call and go, I don't want to do a musical. I don't sing. I don't do a musical. I literally had to drive 3 hours up to Hartford Stage because he was in a play that we'd cast him in, and gave Uncle Tom's Cabin. Because those days we also had no music we could give out. There was no scripts we could give out. And literally had to go up to Hartford Stage and drag his ass and said, just come in. Yeah. Because, and again, you have to remember Collins on the breakdown said, Bruce Springsteen meets Joe Cocker.
Oh my gosh.
He was
that's
a white
crazy.
guy originally. So, Jesse's like, what are you talking about? I was like, just come in. Trust me. And then, of course, he came in and we just made him sing at the piano. I mean, it's like, you don't have to do any material. Just sing near the piano. This is your kind of music.
It might be him.
Oh, is it really him?
Is it Jesse?
It might be.
Yes.
What's up, Jesse? This is technology, Jesse. I hope you're not on the bowl.
Daphne, should I repeat that?
Wish him a happy belated birthday. His birthday was what?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, brother.
Okay, I'm gonna put the microphone to the thing, right? Can you do this? Oh, speaker, right? We have
Technology.
no.
Speaker. It's FaceTime. You should be on speaker.
Help me. Can you talk? Can you hear me?
No, he's not.
Wait,
Your
no,
volume
no,
down? Oh boy.
Earphone?
Can you hear?
Hold on. Wait a minute. I had it on mute. Oh, okay. Wait, no, it's down here. What the heck? All right, I knew it was gonna happen. Say hello, baby. Talk. I love you too. Can you hear me? Oh. Can you hear me? Okay, Can you hear me? Okay, hi. Say hi. Sorry about the mix. Say again.
Where are you?
Okay, can you see where all these people? I'm at BroadwayCon.
We're at BroadwayCon, Jesse.
I'm at BroadwayCon.
Are you?
And these are the people that. Yeah.
We couldn't do this in 1996, by the way. It didn't exist.
I got the
This technology
speaker on you.
Didn't exist.
Amazing.
Oh my God, this is so amazing. I can't believe you